from Create in Spain, just showing you my Nomad Pro, which is made by Carbide 3D. Now this is a small desktop CNC machine, so it's capable of doing three-dimensional objects rather than what I normally use, which is a paper and card cutter, which does two-dimensional things only. As you could see from the previous piece of video, the Nomad is a small desktop CNC. Now it comes pretty much as is, you don't have to construct it. You have to add the collet and whatever bit you're using to cut or engrave, which is pretty simple, that's just a screw it on job. And the other thing you want to do is to add the wasteboard, which is basically a thick piece of wood with holes in it, and you put the baseboard on to the original baseboard because it acts as scrap. Basically, if it gets damaged, you just sand it down and reuse it, or you take it off, you throw it away and you put another one on. You don't have to have an engineering degree to actually use this, to put it together. It's simple. Now the software that it comes with, there are two pieces of software. The first one is Carbide Create, which is a basic way of designing whatever it is that you want to actually cut. And the other one is Carbide Motion, which sends the information to the actual CNC machine. So neither of those is complicated. And what I've done, because I don't have an engineering, a woodworking or that type of background, I've used the settings which are in the software in order to cut things that I've wanted to cut. So I've been playing with it for a few days. Now this is a piece of 4mm plywood, and I've been using pieces of this. I buy this in a sheet which is I think 40 by 60 centimeters, and then I cut it down to what the Nomad takes, which is 20 centimeters square. It works out perfectly, no extra wastage there. Now what you do to fasten it on to the base plate is generally you're using a double-sided sticky tape, and they come with the double-sided sticky tape you can see here. Now what I've got here is some backing from some self-adhesive vinyl that I've already had. And because I haven't actually cut all of this wood and I wanted to keep it and it's already got the tape on the back of it, I'm just using that to go over the tape so I can store these pieces of scrap wood until I want to use them again. It means that I don't have to retape it, which makes sense. So what have I actually made so far? I have done these two things. Now, I design in my normal cutter software because I'm a plotter user. I know my cutter software backwards, forwards and inside out. So I design an SVG on that, and then I import it into Carbide Create and make my design complete. When you've got your design in, you design the path, and then you make it a tool path by selecting what tool, what depth of cut, whether you just want to engrave or whether you want to go all the way through, whether you want to take out all the inside or just do a light, whatever. So you choose your paths and you just set the machine up to start. It's very, very simple. If you're used to using a plotter for paper and card, you'll get the hang of this very, very quickly. So no problem there. Now the other thing I've been cutting is this. Now this happens to be quite thin. This is only 1.1 mil, but this is a plastic. It's got a coating on it, plastic coating to protect it. Now it says that it's polystyrene. My version of polystyrene is that white bubble stuff. So I don't know if this is polystyrene or whether it's something else. But when I went to cut it, I choose to cut it as if it's HDPE, and that seems to cut it really, really well. Gives a nice smooth edge, and I have no clear up to do afterwards. It works really nicely. Now on the subject of cutting, I would say make sure you use decent bits. The machine itself comes with 2 bits, and you will be able to experiment with it and find what other bits you need to purchase. Now, whereas with my normal plotter, I would say, well, buying cheap blades for a plotter isn't a bad idea because they're easily damaged anyway, you can just throw them away. With the things that you need to buy, the bits, as it were, the end mills, or whatever you like to call them, for a CNC, go for a quality end mill. Go for the best that you can afford, simply because it will work out best in the long run. I suggest that you start off with the ones you're given and then just decide which ones you're likely to want. This is a piece of engraving that I did. I'm going to use this as a tree decoration. And the only bit of this which is rough is the hole. And that's because when I first set it to cut, I didn't set it quite deep enough. And when I removed it from the base, I didn't realise that it hadn't cut all the way through. So I had to finish it off a little bit by hand. Then I decided to try my hand at something three-dimensional, so I made this. Now, as I mentioned before, I don't have a woodworking background and I know nothing about woodworking joints. But I thought, heck, how difficult can it be? I'll have a go. So I designed this with tab and slots. Now, I did find that because I didn't allow any difference between the outside cut and the inside cut, I did need to finish it off a little bit by hand, but that's not that problematic, and I'll show you what I used to do that in a moment. But I'm pleased with the way that it came out. I even managed to inset another piece of wood inside the frame. So you could use this sort of thing as a box for post-it notes or for pens or pencils or whatever if you wanted to. But the other thing that you can do, and if you are more into crafts than woodworking, I would put a coloured paper in here and then add some battery lights. And then you end up with a decorative feature. Now, if you want to, you could put a lid on top, or you could simply put it upside down on a shelf. You could use that to stand something else, maybe a Father Christmas or a reindeer or whatever it is, but you'd have a decorative base with a light in it. So my background is more designing SVG files for two-dimensional objects, and that's how I'm looking at this. This allows me to cut thicker objects and different objects than my normal cutter would allow me to cut. Also, I found it's quite fun for doing cute little things like this out of the acrylic. Now, I know the acrylic, or whatever it is that this is colourless transparent. Well, it isn't colourless and transparent. If you colour it with alcohol markers, you can make it any colour you like. In fact, even my string is just plain white string. I've just used a marker to colour that as well, and why not? So I've got a few of these in different colourways now. And these are going to be used in card making. You could use them in scrapbooking or indeed journaling if you're into those kind of things. If you have friends or family, partners or whatever who are into scrapbooking, journaling, card making, and you make a few of this sort of thing, you'll be earning some brownie points, okay? Let me tell you, you will be quite popular if you are doing this kind of thing. And you can make this out of the little leftovers that you've got so that nothing goes to waste, which is quite good. One tool which I think you should have if you're going to go into this is one of these measuring devices that measures how thick your material is. It's no point in guessing it, and it's not easy to measure with a general purpose ruler. These are not expensive to buy, but definitely well worth getting. It will save you a lot of aggravation. The other thing which I have, which woodworkers are going to think, what do you want one of those for? This happens to be a nail drill. Yes, I use it for doing my friends' nails. I happen to find that a relaxing thing to do. I like it. Anything arty crafty I like doing. So this has at the moment quite a small bit on it. It's like a very delicate version of a certain well-known hand drilling tool. This is what I use to do my finishing. Now, like a lot of other tools, you can get lots of different heads for these things. I have a whole selection of them in here. So you can get different shapes and grades of grit and so on and so forth. But this is really great for getting into odd places which might have got a little bit of fluff on it or something. And I like this because it's easy for me to hold. The normal traditional hand drill tools are not easy for me to hold. I like to be able to hold it like a pen. I use this in my crafting quite a lot anyway, and it's great for doing the tidy up work. So that's it. That's my first video. Whoops. That's my first video on the Nomad. Thanks for watching. Take care now. Bye bye.